What's good, guys? Um, Today, I am going to be uncovering some topics that I've learned over the past couple weeks and how to definitely change your mindset and start to develop a stoic mind. And the first thing I want to cover in this heading of developing a stoic mind is to understand that right now we live in a prosperous society, and we live in a prosperous society without meaning. So therefore, we have to find ours, and you have to find yours. Okay. I was listening to a podcast about I don't really know what it was about, but they were basically covering societal philosophy, and societal psychology. And what they basically studied is that they were talking about money, they were talking about meaning, and they were talking about societies and happiness and all these kind of things. And they're basically saying that money always equals more happiness. In most sense, it always equals more happiness. That's assuming that you were happy before you acquired your money, but money always equals more happiness, right? And this is on a personal level, and this is on a societal level. It's going to equal more happiness. Although what they found is that a prosperous society usually, I would say, a prosperous society usually comes with less meaning. The people within, the people individually, they all have less meaning. Okay, and what I mean by meaning is just having a solidified viewpoint of the world. It could be religion, it could be values, it could be principles that you follow. It turns out that in more prosperous societies of technological advancements and great technological evolution, it finds that us as individuals, we just have less meaning. We don't really follow religion that much. We don't really have values and purpose. We just kind of go through life day by day by day by day, and it's stuck. It sucks. A good example of meaning is something like this, basically. So over the past few weeks, I've figured out to stop chasing happiness, in a sense of like, okay, you can chase happiness, but don't do it in a way that you're gonna regret it later. We can all chase happiness and I guess the short-term pleasures, but we're gonna regret it later. What I've learned is to chase happiness within something that is not going to bring up regret later down the road, right? For example, you can watch a movie on Netflix, or you can watch a self-improvement video like this, one you're gonna regret and the other one you won't. This is simply just an easy way to make meaning of the world itself. And the simple thing that I've come to conclude, and the biggest realization, is that within living in this society of people who are depressed and people who are sad and people who are lost and people who just simply have no meaning, and they just seem to lack purpose from the point of view now, like where you see them now. I'm not saying they'll never become somebody who has purpose or somebody who has meaning or somebody who isn't depressed, but the majority of people are in that state. And what I've realized is that, one, they don't have meaning of the world. They don't have anything to just that's holding them. They don't understand the world itself. And for me, as a personal person, me myself is like, if I just do that, I'll be miles ahead of people. And not like the goal. No, the goal is to be ahead. I'll be dead ass. The goal is to be ahead. I'm not gonna try to be humble and say the goal is not to be ahead. It's not a competition. It's a competition, man. I'm trying to beat all these niggas, in a sense, right? Like it's not like who gets there first. Like, I'd love to work with the team and individual. I haven't really found my wolf pack yet, but right now it's just to get ahead of these people and just keep my head forward. And it should be the same for you as well. So with that being said, understanding that people lack meaning, the next thing to understand is, how do we find meaning? And that's what I'm going to get into right now. How do we find meaning? All right. And the simple answer to this is to just study, bro. Not the bullshit that they teach you in school. Fuck all that.
Fuck school! Fuck all this bullshit! What the fuck? The fuck?
Study what sparks your interest, bro. Study philosophy, study religion, study evolution, study psychology, study all these things. Anything that grabs your interest to you, well, what is it? Figure that out and study it to its full capacity, or study it to as much as you can bear, as much as you can handle, essentially. Learn about all these things and study. And then you're gonna become a little bit more articulate, and you're gonna have a lot more ideas on certain things, because you're just building connection points from subject to subject to subject, and you're gonna find all these new ideas, and you're probably gonna feel compelled to share it with the world, or share it within conversations with other people, or fucking maybe write a book. Who knows how far you can go? But I believe in you. All right, even for me, like, the only reason I feel compelled to put out these YouTube videos is because I've made so many connections in my life, just based off, obviously I'm only 19 years young, but based off the things I've read, the people I've met, the conversations I've had, I'm able to make all these connections because I've spent time studying all these things I'm interested in. Right now, I'm really interested in cultural evolution, societal psychology, and bro, I'm reading books about philosophy, I'm reading books about stoicism, I'm reading books about human evolution, I'm reading books about fucking everything. I'm even finding myself reading scientific literature, bro. It's amazing, and it's literally changed my life, and it's changed my viewpoint, man. It's probably the best decision I've ever made, to just get my head in some books. And I honestly know, I know that any man should be just dedicating himself to new knowledge. If you're not dedicating yourself to new knowledge, then what are you going to be? And who are you going to be around? And what are those people going to do for your life? But as I'm saying, man, you need to, the dead ass, you need to make as much meaning as the world as you possibly can. Anything you don't fully understand, face it, full on encounter it, understand what the fuck it is, read into it and figure it out. Because if not, you're going to end up like a 30-year-old, you're going to end up like every other person working at one place for 30 years, trying to give business advice to some people. You're going to end up like those people. You're just going to have I don't even want to describe it. You don't want to be that guy. Simple as that. But in conclusion, if you want to live a life with as little anxiety, as little depression, and overall negative emotion, the best thing to do, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions too, is to go on a journey of making meaning of the world. The next thing I want to cover on developing a stoic mind is to just simply never disappoint yourself. And I know this this could be looked at as kind of a cliche, but I have a different perspective on disappointing yourself and what this kind of means. There's a famous quote by Epictetus, a famous philosopher, and in that quote, he basically says,
"From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself. Separate yourself from the mob. Decide to be extraordinary and do what you need to do."
This quote has changed my life in a matter of weeks, bro. And I just don't even know how to describe it. Like when I first started to implement this, I'm like, no, I'm just done disappointing myself. Like I'm just gonna continuously act in accordance to my future self. I'm gonna stop disappointing myself. I'm just gonna do things that make the tomorrow me feel better, right? And the way I look at it is like this: every single day, you just wake up as a new person, and you have to work as hard as you can, and you have to have you have to be in as much congruence with that person who's gonna wake up in the morning, because the person who's gonna wake up tomorrow on May 8th at 5 a.m. is a different nigga than who's talking right now, right? And I'm gonna do some things before I go to bed to make sure that nigga in the morning is not sad, he's happy. And I want to keep him sane. I don't want to make him pissed off. I don't want to make him resent me. And keeping that relationship and communicating with him on a level that continuously improves our lives is just going to unfold a great life later down the road, right? And you should do the same thing, man. Wait to just have a good relationship with your future self. So you don't want to be resented. Do you want to be resented? No. I've gone through a whole bunch of my life resenting my past self and resenting the choices I've made in the past. And I hate that nigga in the past because he's fucked me up multiple times. And I don't want to be hated anymore. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? He's honestly your best friend, bro. That person who's going to wake up tomorrow, he's your best friend. Like I said, the best thing you can do is just to communicate with him, right? And you can't afford to do this, bro. You can't afford to do this because there's simply just not enough future yous. You only have you only have thousands. And you could have hundreds, or you could have 10. You don't know how long it's going to be until you're on your last until you're on your last day. So why disappoint yourself? Why disappoint them? It's fucked up. You can't afford it. You don't have enough. You don't have enough of them. And this also falls under the notion of self-discipline, which has been touched on so many times in the self-improvement arena. But sorry, from my perspective of this, it's like, from a stoic perspective, it's like this. You were given one life to live. One life to live. And this was said by another famous philosopher named William Irvine. He basically touched on this in one of his books, is that you were given one life to live. And if you're letting other people or outside circumstances control how you live that one life you were given, you are simply wasting it. And if you believe in God by any sort, and you're wasting the life that he gave you, I believe that's the ultimate sin. I've struggled with this, letting temptations, letting junk food, letting all these things control what I do with my life and how I live and other people, all this kind of stuff. And once I realized that me giving into those things is me wasting my life, I'm done with it. Yesterday I went out to the movies with the girl, and I make sure my willy is staying in my pants. Dude, because I don't deserve to have sex. I don't deserve to bust any nuts until I've completely finished this month and went to the gym consistently. And when I got my car, I finally got my car. The next thing to do is to go to the month consistently. Then I deserve to go bust a nut and have sex. But from there on, nah. But I decided to test myself. Go to the movies with the bitch and put the temptation right in front of me. Yes, I may have kissed her a little bit. Yeah, I did a little bit.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
But this shit stayed in my pants. Nothing happened. I'm proud of myself, nigga, because I would have usually folded. So that's the thing. I'm not letting anything control my life, control my decisions, because I'm not wasting my fucking life. And I'm not wasting what God gave me. Simple as that. The next thing I want to cover about developing a stoic mind is to visualize loss. Okay, this one is kind of dark, but we're gonna dive right in. If you've ever dug into stoicism in any sort of way, you might have heard of the term negative visualization. This is something that the Stoics kind of cover a lot. And basically what negative visualization is visualizing the loss of the things that you cherish now. A life without a bed, a life without a house, a life without a car, a life without your people in your life, a life without a family, a life without underwear, a life without socks. The things that you cherish or things you take for granted, taking time out of your day to visualize that thing to be gone. Right, it's going to obviously create a lot more gratitude around it. And the way I go about this is kind of dark sometimes, but for me personally, sometimes it's not every single day. You're supposed to develop this thing every single day. You're supposed to learn how to negatively visualize every single day as much as you can. Me, it's about every other day or so, or every couple of days. So I haven't got to that level yet. But basically what it is, basically for me, okay, I basically visualize myself in a graveyard, right? And on top of that graveyard, there's a whole bunch of graves dug, and there's a coffin floating above it, and above that coffin is all my family members' bodies. It's all lined up, like 10, 20 coffins of my dead family members laying there and just dead, right? And then within a few seconds, their bodies just drop. Their bodies drop inside the coffins. The coffins close. It's all by themselves, just by air. I don't know who the fuck's doing it, God or whatever. Bodies drop in the coffins close, and the coffins go underground, deep, done. And then people just start digging, putting the dirt over their coffins. I visualize that sometimes, and yes, it's sad. Yes, it's dark. Yes, I just visualize all my family being dead, but then it creates so much gratitude around it. And after I do that kind of visualization, I have this very strong urge to call all my families up and tell them I love them. But most of the time I don't, unfortunately. And that's something I need to work on, 100%. But it's created so much gratitude around them. And every interaction that I do have with most of my family members, I try to cherish it. And I push it to its full capacity. And I interact and I be present. I do all those things. Although sometimes I could work on my communication and the frequency of which I talk to them and interact with them and visit them. Yes, I can work on that. But again, if every interaction is positive, and it's good, I believe it's quality over quantity in some sense. So yes, that has changed my life dramatically too, learning how to negatively visualize. But you don't have to really go as dark as me. Just visualize like a life without your clothes, a life without this, a life without that. Those simple things that you take for granted. Like for me, I didn't realize I took the light in my refrigerator for granted until that light went out. Literally, I opened the fridge and the fridge is still dark. I'm like, dang, I can't really see inside that bitch. Like now I wish I negatively visualized the light being gone, because then I wouldn't have been so inconvenienced by the light being gone, if that makes sense. Right? So yeah, but now the light is fixed, so I feel good. Furthermore, you simply want to visualize as much loss as possible so you can build gratitude around everything that you have, and you can just simply be prepared for when that loss actually does occur, because it will happen. And although I'm visualizing all my family members dead and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's gonna happen, man. And I don't want to be. I'd rather understand that this death and this shit is gonna come, because I don't want to be naive to that shit again. And for those who don't know, I lost my dad in 2019 to cancer, and I was young and I was naive. And when he told me about the cancer, 6 months later, he was gone. Actually, it could have been a little bit more than 6 months. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, but he was gone very fast after that. And I was naive, and I didn't really know how to take that or how to receive that. I was just really surprised. I was really caught off guard, because that's the first time I've ever experienced death so close to me, right? And I don't want that for anybody else. I don't want you to be caught off guard. Although death is, there's no right way to react to it. There's no like, it's death. Death is death. Like, I'm not gonna downplay death. It's death. And one thing the Stoics do is they downplay death, and it's kind of been frowned upon by the critics of Stoicism. But what I want to outline here is that you don't want to be caught off guard by it. You don't want to be surprised by it at all times. You need to understand that death is going to happen, and death is natural, and death is change. And any man who is surprised by death and surprised by the changes of nature naturally is somebody who is childish. And you don't want to be surprised by these things that are just going to happen. It's like being surprised that a plant died outside. It's the same thing, really. We're biological we're just specimens, bro. We're just humans. We're just a part of nature. So understanding that some of us decay and some of us die, and yes, you might build connections with those that pass away, but it's just a part of life, man. Okay, and I don't want you to be naive to that fact that death is coming and death is going to be on the way. And me personally, I don't want to be caught off guard by it anymore again. And I know when death does hit me again, because it will, my reaction to it will definitely be a lot different. And again, it is all in the man that you're going to be, because when all these floods and all these things happen, the floods of life and chaos, when it does hit you, what kind of person are you going to be? That's what we're preparing for. disaster. So be ready. The next thing I want to cover about developing a stoic mind is to stop complaining about the movement of time. All right, bro, we all have those days where 30 minutes feels like an hour, or an hour feels like 5. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes time goes by very fucking slow. Sometimes time goes very fucking fast. And what I've noticed with anybody I've encountered, like I'm talking every single person, is that they're always complaining. Oh, time's going by so slow. Oh, dang, wow, time's going by so fast. Like, why the fuck are you complaining about the movement of time? Right? This is it's only reason I say to stop complaining about the movement of time is because soon you won't even be around to experience it. Soon you won't even be around to see it do so. You won't even be around to see it move. So just accept the fact that your perception of time will vary based on what you're doing with your time and what you're doing with your life. If you're doing something fun and enjoyable, understand that time will speed up. If you're doing something hard and meaningful and something that you have to push through, time is going to tend to slow down. Because I think the only reason time slows down when you're doing hard work is because there's value in it. And the only reason time speeds up when you're doing something fun is because there's not. Not saying there's not. That's kind of no. That's what I think. When you're doing something fun, it loses its value. Therefore, you want to go through it fast. Maybe that could be a skewed perception. Anybody can correct me on that in the comment section down below. But that's exactly kind of what I'm getting at here. Why would time speed up when you're doing something fun, yet it slow down when you're doing something? Well, maybe because you want it to be over. I don't know. Whatever it may be, your perception of time is going to vary. You need to accept that, and you're going to live with a lot more peace, right? And you're here complaining about time going too fast or time going too slow when people would die for the time that you have. And some people didn't even wake up today to experience time move, but yet you're still complaining about its movement. Just live in it and understand it and accept the fact that it's going to move no matter what the fuck you do. And you have no control over the pace. And you have no control over your perception of the pace. So accept that fact and you'll live with more peace. And stop taking it so much for granted, because people would die for the time that you have to do the things that you do. And again, like I'll repeat myself again, people didn't wake up today to experience time move. And their loved ones would die for them to be back and experience time move with them. So stop taking that shit for granted and stop fucking complaining about it. Simple as that. But yeah, I don't know why people spend so much time complaining about time. I'm done complaining about time. Let that shit go. Time is time and it's gonna go. All right, man. So these are some few principles I've tried to grasp in kind of developing a stoic mindset. And I've read a decent amount into stoicism, and I'm understanding its basic philosophical point of views. And I've taken my own point of views on them and share them with you. So that is how you can start to develop a stoic mind. Again, go do your own research on these sort of things and fix my mistakes and fix my errors on what I'm perceiving out of stoicism and what it may be. I hope you enjoyed. I hope the video was valuable. Love you. Start off tomorrow strong, G. Peace.